Hello. Hey Jillian. We are going to get started on Algebra 2 on our lesson today on factoring more trinomials. Let me wait for just a few minutes, see if there's anyone else that's going to join. I got to get set up so I can look at the video to see your comments. I would love it if some of you would take a picture of yourself learning this online. So Miss Johnson wants us to send some pictures of her with our students doing online learning. Just a second and we'll get started. All right. I think that's clear. Does that look clear to everybody? All right. Today's lesson is not quite as easy. Hang on, I gotta take my charger out there. That's why I got shaky for a minute. Today's lesson is not quite as easy as Tuesday's lesson, but I think you'll get the hang of it. We're going to still be factoring trinomials. The trinomials have fact in front of our x squared term, or it had a GCF. And today, we're going to look at how to factor trinomials that have a number in front of x squared when there is no GCF. Now, I have always factored these just by knowing the FOIL method and doing it backwards to get my two binomials. Our answers are still going to be two parentheses side by side for these. And we just have to make the two parentheses be able to FOIL together to make this trinomial. But there is a method, and if I was at school, if we were at school learning this, I would show you both methods, just the trial and error method, and then this. But since we're online, I'm just going to show one way, and this way works every time. It just takes a few more steps, but it's really good for students who don't understand, and because I'm not there to help you, I'm going to show you this way. So get paper and pencil, write the stuff down, try to understand it as we go, and your comments are delayed from when I see them, so I won't be able to answer questions right away. I'll look at them from time to time, though. Okay, here we go. We are going to factor 2x squared plus 13x plus 11. Now remember, this trinomial, when it factors, your answer is going to be in two parentheses, side by side, because factoring is just doing the FOIL method backwards on these trinomials. We're going to use something called the slide, factor, divide, bottoms up method. Okay, slide, factor, divide, bottoms up. Just kind of get that down in your brain. Slide, factor, divide, bottoms up. And we're going to do several examples to let this kind of get into your brain, memorize the steps. So the first thing you want to do on the first step where it says slide, we're going to take this coefficient in front of x squared, and we're going to slide it down to the end, and we're going to multiply by the 11. So on the slide step, when you do that, you pick it up and you take it down here. You're not going to have it left in front of x squared anymore. So we're going to rewrite this trinomial without the 2 in front. X squared plus 13x plus the result from 11 times 2, which is 22. Now, once you do that, you have one of the easy trinomials left with no number in front that you can factor. So we just did the slide part, and now we're going to do the factor part. So we're going to take this trinomial and we're going to factor it. Remember, when you have these easy trinomials, you just put an x in front of each parentheses. And now we want two factors at the end of each parentheses that multiply to give us 22. That's going to add up to be 13. And that's 11 times 2. They're both positive, so we're going to do plus 11 and plus 2. Okay, so we did the slide part, and then we did the factor part, and now we're going to do the divide part. The divide is when you take that coefficient from the beginning that you slid, the 2, and you put it up underneath these last two numbers in the parentheses to divide. So we're going to divide by 2. We're going to divide by 2. And then you have to simplify those fractions. Okay, that's the divide part. After you put it up under the numbers you divide, actually divide by reducing. Now, if it can't reduce, you're just going to leave it. So we still have in this parentheses x plus 11 over 2. But this parentheses, it reduces to 1. So we're going to have x plus 1. And then the last part is bottoms up. And that means whichever fraction you still have, the one that didn't reduce, that number on bottom goes up to the front, to the top of that parentheses. That's the bottoms up. So you're going to end up with your final answer. The 2 goes in front of x, and then you're left with that 11. And then x plus 1. And that is your answer. 2x plus 1 times, 2x plus 11 times x plus 1. Now, if I were doing this and I had my original trinomial, because I've done this for so long and I'm pretty good at it, I would just go ahead in my head and know that 2x times x is 2x squared, and 11 times 1 is 11, and I have to put them in the right order, though, so that whenever I check my insides and my outsides in the FOIL method, the insides plus the outsides add up to be 13. So I would know that that's going to have to go 11 times 1 to get 11. And then my 11x plus 2x has to equal 13x. And so that's called the trial and error method. I just do that. But students have a really, really hard time getting them in the right order. So that's why I'm going to show y'all how to do the slide, factor, divide, bottoms up method. And so we're going to do this on all of our examples. Okay, here's example 2. We're going to factor 3n to the second plus 8n plus 5. And we're going to use the slide, factor, divide, bottoms up method. I'm going to say that a lot so it'll be drilled into your brain. First step is to slide. And we're going to slide the 3 down to the n to the 5. And when we do, we're going to be left with n to the second plus 8n plus 15. Remember, slide the 3 down to the end and multiply. Next, we factor. So we're going to put our two binomials. And remember, you want to split your n's apart. N times n is n to the second. And then we're going to think of two factors that will give you 15, that will add up to be 8. And that's going to be 5 times 3. They're both positive. 5 times 3 is 15. 5 plus 3 is 8. Next, we do the divide part. When we divide, we're going to divide these last terms in each parentheses by the number in front of the problem at the beginning, that 3 that we slid down. So we're going to divide by 3. And then you reduce if possible. And when we reduce those, we're going to get, this one stays the same, 5/3. This one, 3 over 3 equals 1, so we're going to make it n plus 1. And then you do the bottoms up part. So this 3 goes in front of the n, and you get 3n plus 5. times n plus 1. Okay. Let's see. There's only one person watching, so I don't really know if that's you, Jillian. I'm going to give you a second, see if you understand everything. All right, let's move on to example 3. 10y to the second plus 9y plus 2. So we're going to slide, factor, divide, bottoms up. So we're going to slide 10 to the end and multiply by 2, which is 20. That leaves us the trinomial y to the second plus 9y plus 20. Now factor this easy trinomial into your 2 parentheses. Remember, you want your factors at the end to multiply to give you 20. You want them to add up to be 9. So that's going to be y plus 5 and y plus 4. Next, we want to divide, and we're going to divide by the coefficient in the very front of the problem, which was 10. So we're going to divide 5 by 10, and we're going to divide 4 by 10. Let me move that up to make sure y'all can see. All right. Next, we are going to simplify each fraction, reduce it. And when you reduce 5/10, you get 1/2. When you reduce 4/10, both of those can be divided by 2, so you get 2/5. And now it's bottoms up. Bottoms up means the denominators go to the front of the parentheses. So you're going to get 2y plus 1 times 5y plus 2. Remember, you can always go back and check these to make sure they're right by just multiplying these using your FOIL method. And when you multiply these 2 parentheses together with your FOIL method, you should get the trinomial that was at the top. All right, moving on to example 4. On example 4, we're going to factor 3g to the second minus 10g plus 7. We have one more example after that. The only difference in these 2 examples and the other 3 that I've already done are the signs. The first 3 were all positives. I wanted to get the point across to you without having to worry about negatives, but these last 2 have some minuses in them. So just pay close attention to your signs when you're working these. Step 1, remember, slide, factor, divide, bottoms up. So we're going to slide the 3 to the end and multiply 3 times 7. And that leaves us with g to the second minus 10g plus 21. Next, we want to factor. So we're going to factor our 2 parentheses. I'm going to move over here. I'm moving to the left just because my G, the tails on my G's are getting in the way. So when I factor those, that's going to be G. Looking for 2 factors of 21 that will add up to be negative 10. And they have to both be minus. Minus 7 and minus 3. Now, after you put those in, multiply them and add them to make sure you got your signs right. Negative 7 times negative 3 is positive 21. Negative 7 plus negative 3 is negative 10. So you factored those correctly. Next, we have to divide. After we factor, we divide. So now we're going to divide by the coefficient in front of the problem. So we're going to divide by 3. Divide by 3. Now you reduce. And so whenever we reduce those, we're going to get g minus 7 over 3 because that one won't reduce. 3 over 3 is 1, so we're going to get g minus 1. And then all you have left is the bottoms up. This 3 goes to the front of the parentheses. So your final answer is going to be 3g minus 7 times g minus 1. Again, remember, you can check those by multiplying using the FOIL method. And when you multiply these two parentheses together, you should get the trinomial from the beginning. And our last example, example 5. What do we do first? We slide. 6 times negative 3 is going to be negative 18. So that's going to give us y to the second plus 7y minus 18. What do we do next? Factor. So we're going to factor. We're looking for two numbers that multiply to give you negative 18 that will add up to be positive 7. So you have to get your signs right on the right with the right number on this one. That's going to be y in the front of each parentheses. We know one of the numbers has to be negative in order to get a negative product of negative 18. We want our plus to be with the largest number so we can add them and get a positive 7. So it's going to be a plus 9 and a minus 2. So let's check those. 9 times negative 2 is negative 18. Positive 9 plus negative 2 is positive 7. So we know we got those right. Now the next step is to divide, and we divide by what number? The 6, the number in front of the trinomial. So 9 divided by 6, negative, whoops, I put the wrong number. Negative 2 divided by 6. And then reduce our fractions. And that leaves us with y plus, when you reduce 9 over 6, they can both be divided by 3. So that's going to be 3 over 2. When you divide 2 by 6, if you can't see, that's a 6 that I messed up on. 2 over 6 reduces to 1/3. So that would be y minus 1/3. And then all you have left is bottoms up. So the denominators go to the front of the parentheses. That gives you 2y plus 3 times 3y minus 1. And that is your final answer. Now, if you'll practice these problems, when you watch this video, practice the examples. When you do your IXL, it's going to be easy for you, but it does take a while doing them this way. So I'm going to let your SMART score just have to be a 70. So your assignment, now we're going to go back. Make sure you go back to Algebra 1 on these. We're going to go back to our IXL Algebra 1. So click on your Algebra 1 tab and then do lesson AA5. And it should be problems exactly like these. And you have to get a SMART score of 70. You can always go higher than that if you want. To get bonus points, you can go to 100, just like always. All right, I'm going to sit here for a second and see if anyone has a question. If you need extra help, when you're watching this video, if you don't understand it and you try your IXL and you don't understand it, let me know and send me an email. And then we can Skype or do a video call on Teams, and I can help you with some of this one-on-one. Make sure you're working. Make sure you're getting everything done. Don't let your IXL topics pile up on you. Go ahead and get them all done. All 4 of your lessons now are going to be due Sunday at midnight. I'm going to send you this assignment on Teams, and it will show you that you have to have it done by Sunday. That's when they're all due. All right, y'all take care. See you later.